The snow bit into my skin like shards of glass as my father's truck sped away, its taillights swallowed by the swirling white. "I won't have a faggot for a son," he had shouted. His face twisted in disgust after reading the messages on my phone from a guy I'd been talking to online. He had dragged me from the house, thrown me onto the shoulder of the remote mountain road outside Bozeman, Montana, and driven off without a second glance. 22 years old, and my world had collapsed in the middle of a raging blizzard. I stood there, shivering in nothing but a thin hoodie and jeans, the wind howling around me like a pack of wolves. My fingers were already numb, and each breath came out as a frozen cloud. How had it come to this? I had come home for the holidays, hoping to finally be honest with my family after years of hiding. My mother had suspected something for years, but my father, the stern mechanic everyone in town respected, had always pushed the same line: "Be a man, Griffin. Real men don't cry, don't complain, and sure as hell don't look at other men." When he grabbed my phone during an argument about my late nights, the texts lit up the screen like a bomb. The yelling started instantly, then the accusations, the disgust. "This is not how I raised you," he spat before shoving me out the door into the storm. Mom stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face, but she didn't stop him. "Traditional values," she always whispered when I was younger. "Family honor above everything." I tried to walk toward town, but the snow was knee-deep already. My feet sank with every step, and I fell to my knees after only 50 yards. The cold seeped through my clothes straight to my bones, and panic clawed at my chest. No phone, no wallet, no coat. I was going to die here, alone on the side of Highway 191, because I loved men. The irony burned hotter than the frostbite starting on my cheeks. All those years of dating girls in high school to keep up appearances, of forcing smiles at family dinners, of lying to myself in the mirror every morning. What had it been for? This frozen abandonment. Headlights suddenly cut through the whiteout like a miracle. A large black pickup truck slowed down beside me, chains rattling on the tires. The window rolled down, and a deep, steady voice called out over the wind, "Hey, are you all right? You can't be out here like this. You'll freeze solid in minutes." I looked up, vision blurry from tears or ice. I couldn't tell. The driver was a tall, broad-shouldered man in his mid-30s, ruggedly handsome with short dark hair, a stubbled jaw, and kind hazel eyes that cut through the storm. He wore a red flannel shirt under a heavy Carhartt jacket. "Come on. Get in before you turn into an icicle." I didn't have the strength or the will to refuse. I stumbled to the passenger door, climbed into the blessed warmth of the cab, and collapsed against the seat as my body started shaking violently. The man cranked the heater to full blast and reached behind him for a thick wool blanket, draping it over my shoulders without a word. "Name's Finn Callahan," he said, his voice calm and reassuring as he eased the truck back onto the road. "I live just a couple miles up the mountain. What in God's name happened to you, kid?" I mumbled through chattering teeth. "Fight with my dad, he left me there." I left out the reason. Finn didn't push. He simply nodded and kept his eyes on the barely visible road, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the snow. The heat slowly thawed my fingers, but the numbness in my chest stayed. Who was the stranger who had pulled over for a random guy in a blizzard when most people would have driven right past? 15 minutes later, we pulled up to a sturdy log cabin nestled among tall pines, smoke curling lazily from the stone chimney despite the wind. Finn helped me inside, his strong arm steady around my waist as my legs threatened to give out. The place was warm and inviting. Hardwood floors, a massive stone fireplace already crackling, comfortable leather furniture, and the faint smell of pine and coffee. 2 huskies, Max and Luna, greeted us with curious wags but stayed back at Finn's quiet command. He guided me to the couch, built the fire higher, and disappeared into the kitchen. Minutes later, he returned with a steaming mug of hot cocoa and a bowl of chicken soup. "Drink this slow," he said, sitting across from me in an armchair. His presence filled the room without being overbearing. You're safe now. Roads are closed anyway, so you're stuck here till morning at least. Name's Griffin, right? You told me back in the truck. I nodded, sipping the cocoa. The sweetness hit my tongue and brought fresh tears. I blinked away. Griffin Harris. Thank you, I don't know what I would have done. Finn waved it off. Anyone with a heart would have stopped. Rest up. There's an extra room down the hall if you feel steady enough later. He didn't ask for more details that night, and I was grateful. As I lay on the pull-out couch under heavy quilts later, listening to the wind batter the windows and the dogs snoring softly by the hearth, I replayed the abandonment again and again. My father's words echoed louder than the storm. No son of mine. The shame burned, but underneath it, a tiny spark of relief flickered. I had finally been seen, even if it cost me everything. By morning the blizzard had eased into steady snowfall. Finn made breakfast, fluffy pancakes, crispy bacon, and strong coffee, and we sat at the wooden kitchen table overlooking the white blanketed valley. Roads are still impassable till the plow comes through, he said matter-of-factly. You can stay as long as you need. I've got plenty of space, and I could use help around here anyway. No rent, just split the chores if you're up for it. I stared into my coffee, the offer too generous to refuse. I had nowhere else. My best friend Jake lived in town, but I wasn't ready to face anyone. Mom hadn't called, probably because Dad had taken my phone and forbidden it. Okay, I whispered. Thank you, Finn. Really. He smiled, a warm, genuine curve that reached his eyes. Call me Finn. We're neighbors now, at least for a while. Over the next few days, the routine settled in naturally. I helped chop firewood outside in the crisp air, fed the huskies, and shoveled the porch while Finn headed out on his forest ranger patrols when the weather allowed. In the evenings we sat by the fire, talking about small things. My dream of becoming a writer, his stories of growing up in these same mountains after losing his parents young. He never mentioned a wife or girlfriend, but I assumed he was straight, the kind of solid, quiet man my father would have approved of for anyone else's son. The thought made my chest tighten with unwanted attraction I quickly buried. One night, borrowing Finn's phone to check messages since mine was gone, I saw 0 calls from home. Just a single text from Jake. Dude, your dad called me. What the hell happened? Call when you can. My stomach dropped. I handed the phone back without replying. Finn noticed my expression but only said, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here. No judgment. That simple offer cracked something inside me. For the first time since the abandonment, I felt a sliver of safety. Little did I know, the man who had pulled me from the snow was carrying a secret far heavier than the storm outside. A secret that would soon rewrite everything I thought I knew about my father, my past, and the possibility of love. The week passed in a gentle rhythm of snow and quiet conversations that slowly stitched my frayed nerves back together. Mornings started with the huskies' wet noses nudging my hand for breakfast, followed by strong coffee Finn brewed while I scrambled eggs. Afternoons brought chores, stacking firewood, clearing paths, or accompanying him on short ranger checks when the roads opened briefly. Evenings were for the fire, where stories flowed easier than I expected. Finn had a way of listening that made the words come without pressure. His hazel eyes steady and free of the pity I dreaded. I opened up in pieces. I told him about growing up in Bozeman, the pressure to follow my father into the family garage business, the way Mom baked pies every Sunday like clockwork to keep the peace. I skirted the real reason for the fight at first, calling it a difference of opinion. Finn never pushed, but he shared his own scars too. His parents had died in a car accident when he was 19, leaving him the cabin and a mountain of grief he learned to carry alone. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you end up teaching you the hardest lessons, he said one night, poking the logs until sparks danced upward. Doesn't mean you're broken. Just means you're learning to stand on your own. His words landed like warm blankets. For the first time, the shame that had wrapped around me since the roadside didn't feel quite so suffocating. I started noticing little things about Finn. The way his laugh rumbled low when the dogs did something silly, the calluses on his hands from years of honest work, the quiet strength in how he moved through the world without needing to prove anything. Attraction flickered again, warmer now, but I stamped it down. He was straight, my savior, not someone to complicate with my mess. On the 7th day, the plow finally cleared the main road. Finn offered to drive me into town if I wanted, but something in me hesitated. Maybe tomorrow, I said. Instead, I borrowed his phone again and texted Jake. I'm okay. Staying with a friend up the mountain. Tell me what my dad said. The reply came fast. He called me ranting, man. Said you're confused and not welcome home till you sort yourself out. What did you do? Come crash at my place if you need. I stared at the screen, throat tight. Jake had been my best friend since freshman year football games, late-night drives, secrets about girls. He didn't know. No one did. That afternoon Finn noticed my mood while we were splitting logs behind the cabin. Snow crunched under our boots, axes swinging in rhythm. Bad news from home? He asked quietly, wiping sweat from his brow even in the cold. I set the axe down. My dad told my best friend I'm not welcome back. Didn't give details, but I know what he meant. The words hung there. Finn stopped chopping and looked at me, really looked, without flinching. You don't have to carry it alone, Griffin. Whatever it is. His voice was gentle, almost too kind. Something in me cracked open. I'm gay, I said, the confession rushing out like the wind. He found texts. Kicked me out because of it. I waited for the recoil, the sudden distance, the same disgust I'd seen in my father's eyes. Instead, Finn set his axe aside and stepped closer, resting a hand on my shoulder. The touch was steady, warm through my jacket. I'm sorry he did that to you, he said simply. You're still the same person who helped me haul those logs yesterday. Still the guy who makes the dogs laugh when he pretends to throw their ball into the snowbank. Nothing changes that unless you let it. Relief flooded me so hard my knees almost buckled. We sat on the chopping block after that, talking until the sun dipped behind the peaks. Finn didn't share his own orientation, but he listened like someone who understood deeper than words. That night, over stew and fresh bread, the conversation turned lighter. He told me about his ranger days, tracking wolves, rescuing hikers, the peace he found in the quiet wilderness. I shared my half-finished novel, the one about a boy finding his voice in the mountains. For the first time since the blizzard, I laughed, really laughed, when Luna stole a piece of bread from my plate. Yet beneath the growing ease, small worries nagged. Jake's next text asked for details I wasn't ready to give. My mother still hadn't reached out. And Finn, kind, steady Finn, sometimes looked at me with an expression I couldn't name, gone before I could question it. When I tried to pay him for groceries he'd bought, he refused with a grin. Consider it neighborly. Besides, you've earned your keep. The next morning I woke to find him already outside, snowshoes strapped on. Thought we'd hike to the ridge if you're up for it, he called. Best view in the county after a storm. I joined him, the crisp air clearing my head. As we climbed, side by side, our breaths sinking in the thin air, I felt something shift. Not just gratitude anymore. A quiet pull. Possibility. But I pushed it down again. This was safety, not romance. Finn was my rescuer, nothing more. Back at the cabin that evening, my phone, finally replaced with a cheap burner Finn insisted on buying, buzzed with a missed call from an unknown number. I listened to the voicemail later while Finn was in the shower. My father's voice, clipped and cold. If you're smart, you'll stay gone. Don't drag your mother into your choices. The words stung fresh, but this time I didn't crumble alone. When Finn emerged, hair damp, I told him. He didn't offer empty comfort. Instead, he poured 2 glasses of whiskey and sat with me by the fire until the logs burned low. You're building something new here, he said quietly. Doesn't mean forgetting. Just means choosing what you carry forward. His eyes held mine a second longer than usual. In that moment, the cabin felt smaller, warmer, charged with something unspoken. I fell asleep wondering what secrets this man might be keeping behind his steady calm, and whether I was brave enough to find out. Winter tightened its grip on the mountains, but inside Finn's cabin the days grew brighter with routine and tentative trust. I started writing again. Mornings at the kitchen table while Finn was out on patrol, words flowing easier than they had in years. The novel's protagonist began to feel like me. Lost, freezing, then slowly thawing under unexpected kindness. Finn never read over my shoulder, but he'd ask how the chapter was going over dinner, his interest genuine. The huskies became my shadow, Luna curling at my feet while I typed, Max bringing me sticks like gifts. Yet the outside world refused to stay quiet. Jake kept texting, his messages growing impatient. Dude, your dad's telling everyone at the garage you had some kind of breakdown. People are asking. Come stay with me. I've got your back no matter what. I finally called him from the cabin one afternoon while Finn was chopping wood outside. The conversation started light, then turned. So what really happened, Griff? Jake asked after the usual small talk. I took a breath and told him. Everything. The texts, the shouting, the roadside abandonment. Silence stretched on the line. Wow, he said finally. That's heavy. I mean, I get why he freaked. Your old man's old school. But kicking you out in a blizzard? That's messed up. Relief hit me. Then he continued. Look, I'm not judging, but maybe keep it low-key around town for now. People talk. My mom already asked if you're okay. I told her you're figuring stuff out. Just don't make it everyone's business yet. Yeah. The words landed like a second betrayal. Jake wasn't cruel. He offered his couch again. But the careful distance in his voice echoed everything I'd feared. When I hung up, Finn found me staring at the phone. He didn't ask what was said, just handed me a fresh mug of coffee and sat beside me on the couch. Friends aren't always forever, he said softly. Some stay. Some show you who they really are when it matters. His quiet support meant more than any grand speech. That evening we drove into Bozeman for supplies, my first time back since the storm. The town looked the same. Christmas lights still up on Main Street, the garage where my father worked glowing under fluorescent lights. I stayed in the truck while Finn ran into the store, heart hammering at the thought of being spotted. When he returned with bags, he glanced toward the garage but said nothing. On the drive back, snow flurries dancing in the headlights, I asked the question that had been building. Have you ever lost people because of who you are? Finn's hands tightened on the wheel for just a second. Yeah, he answered after a pause. A long time ago. People I thought would understand. Turns out some truths are too heavy for certain folks. He didn't elaborate and I didn't press. The silence between us felt comfortable now, full of things unsaid but not uncomfortable. Back at the cabin, another voicemail waited, this one from my mother. Her voice trembled. Griffin, honey, your father says you're staying with someone. Please call me. I miss you. He's hurting too in his way. I played it for Finn after dinner. He listened, then set the phone down gently. You don't owe anyone an explanation that costs you peace, he said. But if you want to see her, I'll drive you. No pressure. The offer cracked the last wall I'd built. That night I cried for the first time since the roadside. Ugly, shaking sobs while Finn sat beside me, one hand on my back, steady as the mountains. When the tears slowed, he pulled me into a hug. It was brief, brotherly, but something in the way his arms held me felt different. Safer. Warmer. I pulled back first, cheeks burning, and mumbled thanks before retreating to my room. The next morning brought the first real test. A ranger colleague of Finn's stopped by unannounced. Big guy named Travis with a booming laugh. He clapped Finn on the shoulder and eyed me curiously. New roommate? He asked. Finn introduced me simply as a friend who needed a place after a rough patch. Travis nodded, but later, while they talked shop outside, I overheard fragments through the cracked window. Heard Harris kicked his kid out. Town's buzzing. You sure you want that kind of drama up here? Finn's reply was low but firm. He's a good kid. End of story. When Travis left, Finn came back inside, jaw tight. Small towns, he muttered. Everyone's got an opinion. The societal pressure I'd feared was already closing in. That afternoon I tried calling my mother. She picked up on the first ring, voice thick with emotion. Griffin, I'm so sorry. Your father won't let me come see you. He says it's for your own good, to think about your choices. Her words stung with the weight of years of silent compliance. We talked for 20 minutes, careful, halting words about the weather, my writing, anything but the truth. When I hung up, the loneliness hit harder than the cold ever had. Finn noticed. He suggested a walk with the dogs to the frozen creek behind the cabin. Snow crunched under our boots as Max and Luna raced ahead. You're not alone in this, he said quietly, breath fogging the air. Not anymore. His shoulder brushed mine as we walked, and for a moment the world narrowed to just us, the dogs, and the quiet promise in his words. Yet that night, while Finn was in the shower, I borrowed his laptop to check job listings, anything to feel less dependent. An open folder on the desktop caught my eye. Old photos labeled, College 2008. I clicked without thinking. The first image showed a younger Finn, laughing with a group of guys. One face stood out. My father, 20 years younger, arms slung around Finn's shoulders, smiling in a way I'd never seen. The caption underneath, Me and Mike, best summer ever. My stomach dropped. Before I could close it, Finn walked in, towel around his waist, and froze when he saw the screen. The air changed instantly. Griffin, he started, voice careful. I shut the laptop, heart racing. Whatever secret Finn had been keeping, it was tied to my father. And I was about to find out exactly how deep the betrayal ran. The silence after I closed the laptop stretched thick and heavy, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the distant howl of wind through the pines. Finn stood in the doorway, water still dripping from his dark hair, towel low on his hips. His usual steady calm cracked for the first time. You weren't supposed to see that, he said quietly, crossing to the couch but not sitting. His hazel eyes held something raw, regret, maybe fear. I swallowed hard. That's my dad. With you. In college. The photo burned behind my eyelids. My father, the man who had thrown me into the snow for being gay, smiling like he belonged in that picture with Finn. What the hell, Finn? He ran a hand through his wet hair and finally sat, elbows on his knees. It's not what you think. Or maybe it is. Mike, your father, and I were close. Really close. Summer after freshman year at Montana State. We spent every weekend up here at this cabin, talking about life, about who we were when no one was watching. He paused, voice dropping. We weren't just friends, Griffin. For 3 months we were together. First time either of us admitted it out loud. The room tilted. I gripped the arm of the couch. He's straight. Married my mom. Had me. He hates what I am. Finn's laugh was bitter. He wasn't always. Or maybe he still isn't and just buried it deeper than anyone. When summer ended, he panicked. Said it was a mistake, that his family would disown him, that he had to be the man they expected. He cut me off cold. Married your mother 6 months later. I left town for a while, joined the Rangers, tried to forget. But I never could. When I saw you on the roadside that night, I recognized you from pictures Mike used to show me. Same eyes. I couldn't drive past. The pieces slammed together. My father's rage hadn't been just about me. It was about the mirror I held up to his own buried truth. The abandonment, the silence from my mother. It all carried the weight of his shame. You knew, I whispered. All this time you knew why he did it, and you didn't tell me? I wanted to give you space to heal first, Finn said, reaching out but stopping short. Telling you right away would have made everything about him again. You needed to stand on your own feet. But yeah, I kept the secret. I'm sorry. Anger surged hot and sudden. I stood, pacing to the window. You let me think you were just some good Samaritan. Let me start to... I caught myself, cheeks burning. Let me start to feel something real. The almost kiss I'd imagined, the brushes of shoulders on walks, the way his hugs lingered. They all felt tainted now. Misunderstanding crashed over me like another blizzard. Had any of it been real, or was I just a way for Finn to settle an old score with my father? Finn rose slowly. Griffin, whatever you're thinking, it's not that. Saving you wasn't about Mike. It was about you. The kid freezing in the snow who reminded me of the boy I used to be. Scared, alone, needing someone to see him. His voice cracked. And these past weeks, they've meant more to me than you know. I wanted to believe him. The sincerity in his eyes pulled at me, but the betrayal sat heavy. I need air, I muttered, grabbing my jacket and heading for the door. The huskies whined as I stepped into the cold night. Snow fell softly now, muffling the world. I walked the path to the creek, mind spinning. My father's secret life. Finn's hidden past. My own feelings that had been growing despite everything. When I returned an hour later, half frozen again, Finn had left a note on the kitchen table. Take the bedroom tonight. I'll sleep on the couch. We'll talk when you're ready. I didn't sleep much. The next morning Finn was already gone on patrol, leaving fresh coffee and a plate of toast. I spent the day writing furiously, pouring the confusion onto the page. When he returned at dusk, snow dusting his shoulders, I was waiting by the fire. I'm not mad anymore, I said as he hung up his coat. Just hurt. And confused. Did you ever love him? Finn sat across from me, the firelight carving shadows on his face. I thought I did. But what I feel now, for you it's different. Deeper. Scarier because you're not a summer fling. You're the man who walked into my life half frozen and walked out stronger every day. He reached across the space between us and took my hand. This time I didn't pull away. His palm was rough, warm, real. We talked until midnight, about his guilt for not telling me sooner, about my father's choices, about the possibility of something real between us. When the conversation finally quieted, Finn leaned in slowly, giving me every chance to stop him. The kiss was gentle, tentative at first, then deeper with all the weeks of unspoken want. No rush, no pressure. Just two men who had both been abandoned by the same ghost finally choosing each other. But the misunderstanding wasn't over. The next day my father's truck pulled into the driveway. He climbed out, face thunderous, and banged on the door. I know you're here, Griffin. And I know who's hiding you. Finn stepped outside with me, shoulder to shoulder. The confrontation that followed cracked open every wound, but it also set the stage for the truth that would either destroy us or finally set us free. My father stood on the porch like a storm cloud, fists clenched at his sides, breath pluming in the cold air. Get your things, he barked at me, ignoring Finn completely at first. Your mother's been crying for weeks. This ends now. His eyes flicked to Finn, and something dark passed across his face. Recognition mixed with shame. You, he spat, should have known you'd be the one to drag my boy into your sickness. Finn didn't flinch. He stood taller, voice steady as the mountains behind us. Mike, this isn't about me. It's about your son freezing on the roadside because you couldn't face yourself. Still can't. The words landed like an axe. My father's face drained of color. For the first time I saw the man behind the mechanic's grease and the lectures. The boy in that old photo, terrified of his own heart. I stepped between them. Dad, stop. I'm not coming home until you can look at me without hate. Finn saved my life. He's been more of a father these past weeks than you have in years. The sentence hung heavy. My father's shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of him in the face of the truth neither of us could hide anymore. You don't understand, he muttered, eyes on the snow. Back then with him it was supposed to disappear. I had you. I had a life. Then you started acting different, and it all came rushing back. I couldn't let it happen again. Not to my son. His voice broke on the last word. For a moment the tough mechanic vanished, replaced by a man drowning in decades of denial. Then the mask slammed back down. This isn't who we are, Griffin. Come home and we'll fix it. Therapy, whatever. But not with him. Finn's hand brushed mine briefly, silent support. He's not broken, he said quietly. And neither were we. You made that choice for both of us once. Don't make it for him now. My father stared at Finn for a long moment, old pain and new anger warring on his face. Then he turned and climbed back into his truck without another word. The engine roared to life, tires spinning snow as he drove away. I stood there shaking, the confrontation draining every ounce of strength I had left. Finn pulled me inside, wrapped me in a blanket by the fire, and held me while the tremors passed. That night we talked until dawn, about sacrifice, about the years Finn had spent alone because my father chose fear over truth, about how my coming out had accidentally forced the past into the light. I never wanted to hurt you with it, Finn whispered, fingers tracing my jaw. But keeping it buried was hurting us both. The misunderstanding that had flared the night before dissolved into something stronger. We kissed again, slower this time, full of promise and the weight of everything we'd survived. The days that followed tested us further. Word spread in town. Travis the ranger wasn't as discreet as we'd hoped. Finn's supervisor called him in for a conversation about personal entanglements affecting his duties. Small-town gossip reached my mother too. She left a tearful message begging me to come home before things get worse. Jake texted once more, "Heard about you in Callahan. Your dad's losing it at the garage. Stay safe, man." The support was lukewarm at best, but it was something. Finn sacrificed quietly. He turned down extra patrol shifts to stay close, risking his perfect record. When the supervisor suggested he take some time off, Finn refused, standing firm. "This is my life," he told me afterward. "I'm not hiding anymore. Not for anyone." His courage mirrored the growth I felt blooming inside me. I finished the first draft of my novel that week, the protagonist finally choosing love over fear. I read the last chapter aloud to Finn by the fire, his arm around my shoulders, huskies at our feet. But the biggest test came on a quiet Saturday. My mother showed up unannounced, driven by a neighbor since my father refused to bring her. She stood on the porch in her Sunday coat, eyes red. "I needed to see you," she said softly. Inside, over tea Finn made without a word, she listened as I told her everything. The abandonment, Finn's rescue, the truth about my father's past. Tears fell, but she didn't turn away. "I suspected," she admitted. "Years ago. But I was scared to lose the life we built. I'm sorry I wasn't stronger for you, Griffin." She hugged me tight, then turned to Finn. "Thank you for saving my son when I couldn't." The moment cracked open years of distance between us. That evening, after she left with a promise to talk again soon, Finn and I stood on the porch watching the sunset paint the snow gold. He took my hand. "You faced it all," he said. "The secrets, the betrayal, the fear. And you're still here. Still you." We kissed under the fading light, the kind of kiss that felt like coming home after the longest winter. No more misunderstandings. No more hiding. Yet the final confrontation loomed. My father called the next morning, voice hoarse, almost broken. "Meet me at the garage." Alone. Finn squeezed my shoulder. "I'll be right outside if you need me." I drove down the mountain with my heart in my throat, ready to face the man who had started it all, and to choose once and for all the life I deserved. The garage smelled of oil and old metal, the same as every Saturday of my childhood. My father stood under the lift, wiping his hands on a rag, eyes tired in a way I'd never seen. No shouting this time, just the quiet weight of a man who had run out of lies. "I talked to your mother," he said without preamble. "She told me everything she learned up at that cabin. About Finn. About what we were." He swallowed hard. "I was wrong to put you out there, Griffin. Wrong to make you pay for my own fear. But I didn't know how to stop it once it started. Seeing you, it was like seeing the boy I buried 25 years ago. And I panicked. I stood across the workbench, heart pounding but voice steady for the first time in months. You left me to freeze, Dad. Because I'm gay. Because you couldn't face that you are too, or at least were. Finn told me what happened between you two. The summer, the promises, the way you cut him off like he was nothing. My father flinched but didn't deny it. I loved him," he said so quietly I almost missed it. "But love like that wasn't allowed in my world. My old man would have disowned me. Your grandparents, the town, I chose the safe path. Married your mom. Had you. Built this life. Every time I looked at you growing up, I saw the choice I made. When I found those texts, it felt like my past was coming for my son too. I thought if I cut it out hard enough, it would die. Instead, I almost killed you. The confession hung between us, raw and human. Tears stung my eyes. You almost did," I said. "But Finn saved me. Not just from the snow, from becoming like you. Scared. Ashamed. Alone." I stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm not even asking you to accept Finn right away. But I need you to accept me. Or let me go without trying to destroy what I'm building." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw pride mixed with the pain. "You're stronger than I ever was," he admitted. "That book you're writing, your mother showed me a page. It's good, son. Real. I won't stand in your way anymore." He extended a hand across the workbench. I took it. The grip was firm, shaking slightly, but it was a beginning. Outside, Finn waited in his truck, engine running. When I climbed in, he searched my face. "You okay?" I nodded, leaning over to kiss him right there in the parking lot where anyone could see. "Better than okay. He's not ready to come to dinner yet, but he's not fighting us anymore." Finn's smile broke wide and bright, the kind that reached his eyes and lit up the whole cab. We drove back up the mountain together, windows down despite the cold, radio playing low. The Huskies greeted us at the cabin like heroes returning from war. That night we cooked steak and baked potatoes, laughing over nothing and everything. Later, wrapped in each other's arms by the fire, Finn traced the line of my jaw. "You faced the truth. All of it. And you chose us." "I chose me first," I said softly. The rest followed. In the weeks that followed, my mother visited more often, bringing pies and tentative questions about my writing. Jake even showed up one weekend, awkward but trying, apologizing for his earlier distance. The town gossip faded as new stories took its place. Finn kept his ranger job and I finished my novel, sending it to agents with a dedication page that simply read, "For the man who pulled me from the snow." Spring arrived early that year, melting the last drifts and revealing green shoots pushing through the earth. Finn and I stood on the ridge where we'd hiked that first time, watching the valley wake up. He slipped an arm around my waist. "Ready for whatever comes next?" I leaned into him, the future stretching bright and open. "With you? Always." In the end, was the father's abandonment the greatest betrayal? Or was it the secret that truly set Griffin free? True or false? No amount of family rejection can break a soul that finally finds its real home.